Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Committee of the Whole. I've asked for this meeting to start discussions on the process and steps of future in-person attendance by the general public at our council meetings. I've scheduled, 30 minutes to start the process of this discussion. Certainly there's a lot of topics to cover, but want to just kind of start things. And I did send out a document earlier today. It's late communication number 4, and if someone would be willing to accept that, it really just will provide a framework for our discussion tonight. It's not intended to be all-inclusive, but just to kind of give us some topics that we want to discuss. So may I get a motion? Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You've heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to share my screen. We'll see how it goes. This will provide the document for people watching at home, or as best I can. And we're lucky tonight to have Mayor Betancourt with us. The first topic he's going to provide is kind of an overview of some things happening at City Hall to provide greater access to the general public, and he'll kind of run through that, and we'll start with there. So thank you, Mayor Betancourt, for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, good evening, Council. Happy to be with you. Hope everyone is well. I applaud you, Mr. President. This is a great time to have these discussions. I wanted to take the opportunity, and this is kind of our announcements. The city will be putting out a press release and starting to promote this as well. But I can share with you where we stand with the opening of City Hall and maybe some other departments as well. We are going to be reopening City Hall to the public effective Wednesday, April 7th. We've kind of aligned that with the opening of the middle school and the Peabody High School. I think you are all familiar with the recent activity in the school side where the school committee and the administration, we were able to reach an agreement with the Peabody Teachers Union for the elementary school to go back full 5-day in person on Monday, March 29th. And the high school and middle school will be opening 5-day full in-person learning effective Wednesday, April 7th. So we will be fully open Wednesday, April 7th here at City Hall. We have taken a couple of measures to help during the transition to the opening. We are going to have a security guard working full-time for the city of Peabody. We won't be a full-time employee. There'll be different people working part-time hours. We've already hired a couple of people, and we're interviewing a couple of more tomorrow. They will be the first person to greet all people that come into City Hall. The entry will be initially will just be at the one door where the elevators are located on the first floor. Everybody will be brought in through that entry, be met with a police officer just to make sure masks are being worn and to welcome them, and then they'll be directed over to a person that we've hired to be a greeter. That is going to be Katie DuPont, who's been working with the city now in part-time capacity for at least a year. She'll be greeting people. There'll be some items she'll be able to take care of right there at her desk. If not, she'll be directing people to the apartment, to their different department that they will be needing assistance from. We will have arrows and designated stairways, and at least initially, directing people where to go. We anticipate the busiest offices always have been, and we anticipate it will be the same, will be the city clerk's office, the collector's office, building inspector, and to a lesser degree, some of the other offices. But it's time to start getting the city open. We think this is the appropriate measure to take initially to help keep peace of mind here at City Hall and people that are going to be coming into the building. And that's why we'll have that security and the greeter there to help people as we get things moving. And we anticipate that we'll be opening up more and more as time goes on. The main library will be opening up fully on April 20th. That's the school vacation week. We felt that was a good week to target for their opening. Kate Merlin, the library director, the trustees have done a terrific job. They have a wonderful plan for that opening on the main branches, and their plan is to have the other branches, south and west, open a couple of weeks after that. They're in the process now of putting that plan in place. So very happy to be able to have these discussions where we're going to be opening up the building for greater access. The library will be great to have that, that happening as well. I do want to thank all the people here at City Hall. I always want to take these opportunities, and with our library as well, because they were working during these times, getting books to people in drive-bys and pickups and things of that nature. But we have been open since the beginning of the pandemic a year ago. It's unbelievable to say. And people have just stepped up tremendously, doing very difficult work during very difficult times. We've been open for meetings, appointments for several months now, and that's gone very well. A lot of the work here in certain departments have to be done through meetings, like our retirement, our veterans, and those have been continuing, and those will continue moving forward. So I just wanted to explain where we are. The security people that we've hired, and it's going to be over. The security guards will be overseen by retired police officer Rich Gerolman. He'll be assisting us with the operation, and he'll be working quite a bit for probably the first couple weeks, and then other people will be helping us as well. But we've talked to whoever we're bringing in to be available and work hours on Thursday evening for city council meetings. Once you are ready to proceed with open meetings, we will have a security person here as well to help and assist in our public hearings. I think, as you may know, legislative bodies are exempt from a number of people that can be in an auditorium like this. The governor's announcement that took effect on Monday was that 50% capacity. We as a legislative body are exempt from that number. The only thing that has to be followed is 6 feet of distance, mask wearing, and things of that nature. So I just wanted to fill everybody in on where we stand, and happy to answer any questions. Sharon Cameron was unable to be here today, but I know she spoke with President O'Neill, and certainly I have some information. If there's specific questions, I can try to help with as well. But very happy to be able to finally have these discussions and move things along.
Thank you, Mayor Betancourt. Any questions for the mayor? Councilor Charest.
Thank you to the president, to mayor. Thank you for getting City Hall opened up in some kind of capacity. I appreciate it. I know all of us have gotten calls inquiring when City Hall is going to open up, and I know you're looking at the safety aspect of it too, but thank you for opening it up. Is there any thought of any extended hours on any other day besides Thursdays going forward to, I know a lot of people probably have build up work they need to process here in the City Hall, but also any residents that have stuff they wanted to get done. Is there any thought of that if it's a Saturday morning or anything like that? Because you'd be able to space out people.
We can, yeah, because there's going to be limits in terms of how many people come in. We haven't had those discussions yet, but I think depending on how many people come to do business in the city, I still think we're going to get a lot of people that are not ready to come into public buildings yet. But no question there's going to be people that want to come in and access the building, go to the departments. And so right now we haven't, but that's certainly something that we can discuss if the need arises. I don't think we've ever had Saturday hours, but certainly if there's more people that need to get access to this building, we can maybe come up with some plan to allow for some outside hours as well.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the mayor. Mr. Mayor, could you expand a little bit on the limited capacity comment you made? I'm just trying to understand what the security guard and the greeter, what their role is going to be in terms of enforcing limits on numbers of people, or what those might look like. And just to expand on a step further, if they get sent to a department, like for example, the clerk's office now has a window where they didn't pre-COVID, would any department that they interface with now be kind of in that fashion through a kind of a protective barrier?
Yes, we did do some internal work in anticipation of reopening. We did do some significant work, put in a brand-new window at the clerk's office, and also at the Community Development and Building Inspector's office. There's some work we did over the last few weeks to put up some barriers that we felt were necessary. So, yeah, I mean, really, there's no set number. There's nothing that we're instructing the police officer or the security to only allow 10 people into the building. You know, we want to get people into the building. We're just anticipating if there's long lines, typically when excise tax bill is due, or real estate taxes, there can be some long lines. So we're trying to account for that. But we don't anticipate at any of the other offices that there's going to be big log jams at certain windows. So there's not a specific count we're going to be doing or anything like that. I think it's going to be at the judgment of the security guard if there's a large group that all of a sudden just shows up at one time. But we want to make sure that people are not coming into the building, which can happen, to just come in and use the bathroom or to wander around. There still has to be some safeguards we have, and that's what we anticipate the security guard will be doing, and working together just to make sure things are flowing. We're going to direct everybody out the front door. As I said, most of the activity we anticipate being on the first floor, and then everybody will just flow out the front. All the doors will be open, of course, for safety reasons, but we're just trying to, at least initially, kind of have a workable plan where people know where they're coming in and where they're going out. But there won't be like a count or anything like that. It's just going to be more on the judgment of what the security person thinks.
So through you, Mr. President, to the mayor, so it's just more or less to applying that judgment to make sure it's kind of an orderly flow, and that there's an awareness on the part of people coming into City Hall that there's some rules they need to adhere to as far as distancing, and you said there'll be some arrows and stuff, so I'm sure there'll be some flow requirements, and they would just raise the awareness of those coming to City Hall of those things. Is that more or less what the correct expectation?
Yes, exactly. We anticipate that on the basement floor, you would come in to where the elevators are. The desk would be right there to greet you, and then we'd be directing people with arrows and signage to go right. They would pass in front of the IT department where Dan Doucette's office is, go up that flight of stairs to come out over on the side of where the assessor's office is and the collector's office. And then everybody would come in. We anticipate that most people come in, as I said, for those offices. People would be coming upstairs to meet with me, and that's certainly going to be open. And then everybody, after using those offices, would then just flow out the front.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other further questions for the mayor from councilors? Thank you, Mayor Betancourt, for coming in. Oh, sorry, Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you to the mayor, and Mr. President, I apologize. I know you're going to address this according to your itinerary here. I think what we are going to discuss is council meetings, and before you step away, I just wanted to ask you if you have any opinion on that, because I know that sometimes we have subcommittees that start at 6, and you have your employees, your department heads up here, and I didn't know if you had something that you wanted to add before we start the discussion of in-person council meetings.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Absolutely. I think I'm ready to be supportive of whatever the decision is. I think all of us are anxious to get back to some normalcy. I anticipate, certainly with budgets coming up and some important items coming up, that there's going to be people wanting to have access to the building and wanting to take part in the council meetings. I also anticipate that on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Their Monday night meetings, I know some big issues are coming on the ZBA that I think people are going to want to be heard and be present at. So we're also talking to the security about having people available on Monday nights as well for those meetings, at least initially, just to make sure everything's okay and everything's orderly. But in terms of people be able to spread out in this building, I think we certainly have available upstairs space, and I think we could set it up where people are spaced appropriately. But no, I'm in speaking to Sharon Cameron and speaking to Frank Cook, we're ready to provide the support you need in order to move forward. They're set to start April 7th, security, and whenever you give us the go-ahead, we'd be ready to help with that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Mr. President.
Any other further questions from councils? Once again, thank you, Mayor Betancourt. This is very informative, and I think, like everyone has already talked about, while City Hall has been open throughout this pandemic, it will give people who want to come here in person and maybe not mail something or just get something done while they're downtown. It's great, and like I said, we set the ground rules for people that are coming in as we start this kind of reopening, if you will. Thank you. So I guess a couple thoughts that as we talk about this, there's lots of it. In my mind, it's a simple topic. How do we, get the public back, general public back to attending our meetings? As the mayor said, Sharon Cameron, Health Director Sharon Cameron had a scheduling conflict, but she was able to run through some just general topics with me, which I put on under the heading of participant safety, which sounds very onerous, but that's ultimately what we are concerned with, is to make sure everyone is safe. I think things are moving in the right direction in this state with vaccines and people getting, access to those, but certainly we still have some challenges. So these are, I guess what I'd say is that I'm going to open up the discussion for people. The bullet point thing that I tried to scrape together is fairly straightforward. It's just topics that I think we should kind of, discuss or run through. My intent would be that I'd recommend that we probably, continue, on this subject, but then keep this in committee so that, number one, people can have some time to digest it. I know you just got this document earlier today, and many of you may not have been able to go through it, but more importantly, I want to make sure that the most important part, the health and safety, that we be able to circle back with Health Director Sharon Cameron and get her input so that we're making sure we're doing this for the health of everyone. So with that, I guess open it up to anyone who wants to talk about, I call it the safety. I put those just as, like the mayor talked about, establish the ground rules. If we're going to certainly require mask wearing, I see no reason why we wouldn't do that. Whether someone is vaccinated or not, they should be wearing face coverings. And then, of course, how we communicate that to the public so that anyone coming to the City Hall for a public City Council meeting is aware of what they might do. And then I'm no brainiac. I put on there on the document the health precautions that most of us have seen throughout, retail establishments, restaurants, or whatnot. These are things that Health Director Cameron mentioned to me. They're certainly part of what the CDC has mentioned, as well as our own, guidelines throughout the state. Once again, these are just things that I think we can talk about. I'll open it up to the council, and certainly want to start talking about anything related to this. So if anyone has any comments, questions, or Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Mr. President. With regards to the participant safety and the health precautions, I think most of what we're seeing here, which is kind of how we're operating throughout society right now, is something, and I think it's a good idea that we do have some sort of security here that's, just a matter of, I'm not, to ask people if somebody's bunching up, if just to be careful there. I think we have a huge advantage of having a very large room. I've been to council chambers and select board chambers all over the state, and we're very fortunate that we meet in a very large area. So any sort of, if we were to get, close to 100 people in here, they would at least be able to spread out. I think we probably have more space than like a cafeteria at a school. But I think with regards to participant safety and the health precautions, I think this could be part of like the beginning of every meeting. If you do have anybody, you can read these off, setting those kind of ground rules. If you're going to communicate at the logistics of communicating at the dais is something you can include in there. I think every restaurant in the state is doing this as well with customers coming in. You probably want a sign-in log in case there is somebody that should, they find out later for contact tracing. I think that would be a good idea. And I also look at a real advantage we would have is the virtual meeting technology. I would suggest keeping some of this going, the option to virtually call in or request to discuss this stuff till at least the end of the year. I think that would allow people to understand what the long-term ground rules are while simultaneously not causing everybody to come down to City Hall at once, while they could still participate if they could electronically. So just getting this is my initial thoughts. I think the timetable, you know, I think if the library's timetable is, if we could get this in line, I think we could operate similar to that, or even around then. But that's just my thoughts on getting this right now. I think this is a great starting document, so kudos to you to having something we can work off of. Whether we want to, I would agree with you that maybe we have to flush a few things out logistically, so that the council can approve it. But based off of what I've heard tonight and what I've seen right now, I think this is very doable, and I think it's important that we do allow in-person participation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. To echo a couple of Councilor Melville's points, I just think one thing to kind of consider is as we do open up in-person public discussion, how do we balance that with the virtual component? If there's an ordering, if people that are participating in person go first, or whatever that happens to be, I think we're going to need to work through that. I also think we should keep that option to call in from home available at least until the end of the year, and maybe going forward, period. I think through this time we've seen a lot more engagement from our citizens that might not, under any circumstances, come down to City Hall. So I think, as Councilor Melville said, I think this is a great plan, great starting point, and there's going to be things like that we need to tweak along the way, but that was the one thing that stood out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. All good points. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I think I'm going to ask that this be through you to Councilor Melville, since he seems to typically be up on various aspects of the governor's orders. In terms of us making a decision to maintain some of these remote practices for any period of time, a couple of councilors have mentioned through the end of the year, isn't some of that going to be dictated by how long the governor's emergency orders stay in place, and anything that might anything the governor might do to adjust those subsequently?
Through you, through the chair to Councilor McGinn, yeah, some of them are. Most of that was related to the notification process and how thereabouts there. I would, one reason why I think we should flush this out is we could also request some information from the city solicitor's office on the timeline. I know the emergency orders were very specific in not including government bodies, as the mayor pointed out. But the remote, so I can tell you that most public bodies have some sort of remote operation right now. The ones that I deal with, which are all of them.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. And so I guess, Mr. President, my request is that maybe we add that to our list in terms of, getting input from the city solicitor with respect to how the governor's order, that much of what happened was a temporary suspension of elements of the open meeting law, as everybody knows quite well, and that is what opened up the avenue for the remote participations. But leaving that in place after that order is rescinded, I'm not really sure, as we sit here today, what the mechanics of that look like. So that's why I'd seek some guidance from the solicitor on that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor
Sorry,
Melville.
Mr. President, one last comment. I think we also might want to add to this list, consideration for our own ongoing remote participation. I don't know that we want to be in the mode of demanding that all councilors come back into the chambers, at a date certain. So I know the majority of what you were trying to accomplish here is with respect to re-engaging the public at council meetings, but I think we also need to consider what that means for city councilor participation as well.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. That's why I left the topic blank, at least saying, whatever. I'm understanding that there are a number of agencies that are appealing to the governor to continue this public participation. I, for one, to echo Council Welton's and Council Melville's comments, that I know people who typically have either childcare, elder care, jobs, and aren't able to come down to the city and they don't may not want to wait an hour or 2 hours for their particular hearing, but they can sit at their home on their cell phone or, watch it or call in. And so it does increase, it can provide another ability for the public to participate. And to your point too about councilors who may not even be in the town, but maybe participate remotely also, not just, for a business trip, but they could take part in that. So that's something absolutely. Quite honestly, I didn't flesh out some of this because I wanted input, and I'm not bright enough to do it, but that's what the idea is. Let's try to figure out something that makes sense, that we can all ultimately as a majority agree on. Not everyone is going to, that's a democracy, right? We take a vote. But any other councilors want to comment at this time with some of the items? Councilor Turco.
Yeah, the only thing that I wanted to add, and I think it's probably one of the only issues that I could see arising with public access is there are still people that, are determined they're not going to wear a mask. So I think that we need to have it clearly stated that not only do you have to wear a mask to get into the building, but you need to wear a mask to get into the chambers, and you need to wear a mask during the entire proceeding that you're here. And, if maybe the clerk can add that, as a permanent fixture on the agendas until further notice. And I think that, the mayor will probably take care of posting that outside in the outside doors, but I'd like to make sure it's posted on the inside door also. Because you will have people state, I've been vaccinated, I don't need to wear a mask, and I think that's where we may arise with issues. Other than that, I think it's standard operating procedure, and we'll be fine with both options of remote and in-person participation, and I look forward to it.
Thank you, Councilor Turco, and great point. That's why I made the comment, establish ground rules. None of us want to police our fellow councils, but, the general public, and we just all accept that this is what everyone's going to do for the benefit of everyone else, whether it be wearing a mask or, whatnot. Any other comments at this time or suggestions? I know certainly there's more to flesh out, and I appreciate I've taken notes on some of the items, but at this time, I probably would recommend that we keep this topic in committee at this time. At this point, I'd entertain a motion to do that.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco. Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.